Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. So, joining me today is Jackey. Hi, Jackey. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so happy to have you joining today and to share your story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like a good one for where I am right now.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have everyone hear your story. Before we start, where are you tuning in from, Jackey?
I'm in Western Oregon, just north of Salem, Oregon, between Salem and Portland.
Okay, okay. Salem. I heard that name in a TV show.
Well, there's Salem, Massachusetts, I think, where the witch trials happen, but maybe that's the one you heard about.
Yeah, that's that one because it was a witch show.
Okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
Different place. The people are much more mellow in Salem, Oregon.
That's good to know. Yeah, so Jackey, to start, who is Jackey? Let's get to know you. You can share as much or as little as you want,
Okay.
so we can get to know you and your story.
Okay. Well, uh, the thing that I'm most known for is my name, Jackey Neyman Jones. And I was in a movie when I was a young child, when I was 6 years old. My dad was in community theater. We lived in El Paso, Texas.
Mhm.
And one of the community theater, there's my dog, sorry.
Oh no.
One of the community theater actors had written a film
Mhm.
and got a bunch of people together to make a movie. And then the movie disappeared after it was in 1966. And the movie was made and it showed in the theater and it was really, really bad. And so it
Mhm.
everybody who was in the movie kind of escaped the theater and then they never talked about it again.
Mhm.
But for me, it was the best summer of my life hanging out with my dad who starred in it.
Mhm.
And 27 years went by and I had looked for it. And then it showed up on this show called Mystery Science Theater 3000 that riffs bad movies. And it became famous and it's still famously known as the worst movie ever made. And it's taught in film school as everything not to do in filmmaking. So, based off of that, I've got to have a lot of opportunities and experiences. And as an artist and a creative person, it's just been a lot of fun, a lot of great people. And I wrote a book about it, which I
Mhm.
like to say is a really good book about a really bad movie because it's 4.5 stars on Amazon.
Mhm.
And it's called Growing Up with Manos, the Hands of Fate, How I Was the Child Star of the Worst Movie Ever Made and Lived to Tell the Story.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, um, but as an artist, I decided early on that I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to work for other people. So I started my first business when I was like 27 years old. It was hand painted t-shirts that I was selling to wineries and I was pretty successful. And then I moved on, did a couple other things and then I discovered faux finishing, doing wall treatments and marbling and
Mhm.
plaster finishes and all kind of murals. When somebody said, I really love your t-shirt designs, do you do walls? And that turned into a pretty successful 30-year career.
Mhm. Mhm.
And in the last 7 years, as I'm getting older, because I'm almost 64 years old, I'll be 64 in July. And so my so about 7 years ago, the paint and sip parties, bars and restaurants started getting popular. And so I built a pretty good business out of that for
Mhm.
7 years. But, you know, COVID over the last 3 years really messed up that. So I had to do something different. And I got together online with a guy who produces shows for other people that have been part of the Mystery Science Theater hosting,
Mm-hmm.
people that are famous in that realm. And so now I'm doing online painting parties through that, and it's building and it's growing into a whole nother business.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm looking for other things to do. Been teaching. I just wrote a grant for a youth program, and we got the grant. So I've been teaching art classes to kids in my community
Mm-hmm.
at 6th through 12th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going really well. So my partner in this and I are looking for other grants and looking for other ways we can teach in our community. We live in a very high poverty area, very rural and and somewhat isolated. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, so we're looking for opportunities for people in our community that also support us.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago in October, I was driving and out of the blue, I totaled my car. I had a grand mal seizure,
Mm-hmm.
and it just totally changed my life. I had to learn a lot about myself through this process of healing, and I'm at a place now where I just feel incredibly blessed to be as healthy as I am for what
Mm-hmm.
I experienced. And I'll tell you, I have a lot more compassion for people who've had, uh, you know, like brain trauma or neurological issues. That's a whole different world. But through this, I've just learned so much. I don't know. You know how sometimes the hardest things in your life turn out to be the greatest blessings because they teach you the biggest lessons.
I love that. Oh, I believe you.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
you're talking to a miracle here. Uh,
yeah.
oh yeah. But to start, I love that you paint, you do arts because I paint and I also have a art page on Facebook. I think we should collaborate on something if you'd like.
Absolutely.
And I'm a self-taught artist. Um, it took time. You know, when you're trying to do something, it's not good enough, it's not perfect enough.
Of
I just
course.
kept trying and trying, and it's been getting much better. So I love that you do that and that you're connecting your gifts and your experience with your community.
Yeah, that's really, really important to me. I moved to this community 22 years ago with my children who were in second and fifth grade, and we moved to
Mhm,
this tiny little town of 1,000 people. I
mhm.
mean, the entire school district is 200 kids approximately. We
Oh,
had a high school graduating class one time of 3 girls and 1 boy.
that's small.
Yes, yeah. And now I raised my kids here
Mhm,
with my businesses, uh, and now we all live on the same property. And I've got 4 grandchildren right next door, and
mhm,
3 of them are in the school district now. And you
mhm,
know, when I moved here, I started the Arts Council and I wrote grants, and we did a lot of things for our community. And
mhm,
I got on the school board and was really active. And then once my kids grew up, I was focusing on other things, but now
mhm,
I need to be I need to be back in my community again, because now all these children that I'm teaching in art classes are kids of the kids who used to camp out in my backyard, you know. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. I want to go back, to your childhood. What was that like for you?
Well, I grew up in El Paso, Texas. I'm actually a fifth generation Texan, born in Fort Worth, but we moved to El Paso when I was like 5. And my dad was executive director of the South El Paso Boys Club, which was right on the border. I mean, you could see the Rio Grande River in Mexico from the Boys Club. And
Hmm.
we lived just less than 3 miles from the border. And my mother was a teacher, and she specialized in special education and people with developmental disabilities and homeschooled kids. And then she went on to become a psychologist. So my parents were very community oriented,
Hmm.
but my dad was also a very good artist, and he was an actor in the local community theater and actually won Best Actor of the Year award 3 different times during his time there. And he became executive director of the theater and taught kids acting classes. So I learned from my parents, but we lived in a neighborhood where we were the only non-Hispanic family. And although I had friends, I was a pretty lonely kid because I was so different. I mean, not just being a different color than the other kids and a different religion beliefs, but my family was such an oddity. My dad being an artist, and a lot of the work he created was nudes. He
Hmm.
painted large paintings, 6-foot paintings of nudes, and and so
Those are
sometimes the
big.
kids, yeah, but the kids would befriend me just so they could get inside our house to see what we had. You know, we were so odd, but in the
Hmm.
rest of the time I just felt lonely and bullied.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up very independent, and I loved nothing more than to sit in my dad's studio and watch him
Hmm.
work. I mean, he worked in clay, and he created three-dimensional sculpture, and he welded, and so from my parents I pretty much learned that I could do anything I could imagine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've taken on things that I wasn't able to complete, but I can't say I regretted anything because it's all a learning experience. But
Yeah, yeah, it is. I
you
love
know,
your outlook on it. You've turned your pain and joy into triumph, into lessons that you've learned from and that you're teaching others. That's the best lessons that we can learn in life, I think.
yeah, like in my painting classes with adults. I mean, kids are great. I tell kids, here's the materials, here's the supplies.
Hmm.
I may be teaching this painting, but it's your art. So you just create what you want. So I might be doing a landscape scene, and one kid will paint SpongeBob SquarePants, you know? And I'll go, you follow the rules,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
And in adult classes, I say my only rule is, especially, at bars and restaurants, is don't mix up your paint water with your drink, you know? But other than that, but I always get adults come in,
Hmm.
and it's funny because there's always one that says right off the bat, I just want you to know that I can't paint a stick figure. I'm like, yeah, yeah, right. That's not what, we're just here to play. And that's what I
Hmm.
aim to
Hmm.
do, is to get people to just
Hmm.
loosen up and just have fun and play. And it's
Yeah.
remarkable how many of them, they walk out happy. I mean, they're so surprised at what they created.
Mm-hmm.
And I've become so much better of an artist through teaching because when I work with people who don't know the rules, then they do things that are remarkable. I'm like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
those colors together are amazing. Or how did you get that? Look,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love
and I always tell them, I said, I'm stealing ideas from
that.
you. I just want you to know.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love the work that you're doing because on my art group, one thing I do talk about is people who are afraid to try or make mistakes
Right.
or comparing our artistry with other artists, right? Whether they're advanced or just starting. And sometimes we fail to recognize and understand that where we are is where we're supposed to be in anything in life. And it applies to artistry as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's absolutely true. We discover so much about ourselves
Mm-hmm.
through our art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
When you step back and you look at it, and I tell people that during the classes, when you're so engaged in it, you're so close to it, and that's with everything in life.
yeah.
You don't see clearly because you're too focused on one piece, one little part. So I tell people what I always do is I turn my back on it and I walk a few steps away,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
take a breath, turn back and look, and then you can see it differently from a different perspective. You can see what maybe you want to change about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about art is with paint anyway, is it's just paint. That's what my dad always told me growing up. He says it's just paint. If you don't like it, let it dry and paint over it.
Mm-hmm.
Many of his paintings have several paintings underneath them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny how you brought that up because that's what I've been doing. Um, I'm bringing back to life old canvases, and
Yeah,
I've learned to paint over them and create something beautiful out of it. And some of us, we're so scared of paint. It's just paint, right? Like you just said,
right. It's
especially
just paint.
adults. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be terrified if I was a tattoo artist, maybe, but that's pretty permanent. But
Yeah.
paint, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my art, and we will exchange information so I want to see your work and show you
Oh, I want
mine,
to
but
see yours too. We'll definitely be in contact after this episode. Um, so what are some states that you've been to, and which ones are your favorite?
well, I grew up in Texas and then I moved to Southern California where I went to high school and then when I was 20, I moved to Northern California
Mm-hmm.
and totally fell in love with the wine country. I mean, I spent my 20s going wine tasting. I worked in wineries and hospitality and doing events and living on the Russian River in Northern California. I mean, it was great, floating down the river in the summer with a bottle of really nice wine.
Yeah.
I'd say that was my favorite place, Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm in Oregon, been in Washington. I love the Seattle area. I love the North Coast. I think the Pacific Coast is my favorite
Yeah.
part of the country. Haven't been a whole lot of their places. I've been to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I'm not even sure. I'll tell you what happened. I had that seizure a year and a half or so ago, and it
Mm-hmm.
wiped out so much of my memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have people tell me about really significant things that have happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
uh, an artist friend of mine says, remember when we painted that mural at the Reed Opera House in Salem? I mean, that's a big place, the Opera House. I have no memory at all of it.
Mhm.
So yeah. But then in terms of losing memory, I say, well, there's a lot of things I'm probably glad I don't remember. So um,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'll just leave it to my friends and family to remind me of the good stuff.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in that. Thank you for sharing your story when it comes to having seizures. It's something I want to focus on a little bit. I've never experienced seizures, but I had a neighbor who used to have them quite often. They were
Mm.
quite violent, and I would help her in the best way I know of. And, I would, when I made supper or cook separate foods, I would take some to her, and she's a single mom with a little boy.
Oh, wow.
I would help her in any way that I can. And we connected on a level that is profound because I have my own health issues, she have hers. We somehow connected. It's like we knew each other for a very long time. What are some misconceptions or things that people say of those who suffer with seizures? How do you think society's view on people like you and me is impacting us?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, the hardest part for me was, and the healing part was that I I've always been so independent. I mean, in my partnerships, my relationships,
Mhm.
that's been their biggest frustration is that I'm
Yeah.
just so independent and
Mhm.
set in my ways, which, you know, it's
Mhm.
true. I see things a certain way and I get
Mhm.
stuck on it. So my daughter-in-law, doing the best she can, and
Mhm.
she loves me, and having my family here is wonderful,
Mhm.
but it really was difficult that I felt like she was kind of baby talking me, I mean, I
Mhm.
felt like it was annoying to be cared for in that way, it's very frustrating. I started to doubt myself, and I lost my confidence,
Mhm. Mhm.
like wondering if I was ever going to be okay, if I was ever going to be, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
not have people look at me sympathetically.
Mhm.
I really didn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed the help, but I didn't want to feel pity.
Mhm.
And my other daughter-in-law's mom has regular seizures and always has, and she just really finds ways to enjoy life, and she loves life. She does karaoke on Saturday nights at the local bar, and um,
Mhm.
she always has a smile on her face. I just admire her so much. I don't know how she can
Mhm.
go through that. I mean, she's a little bit of a goofball, but I think that's who she is anyway, I mean, we love her.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with her, but after a while I'm like, okay, I gotta go. But for myself, just having that seizure in the car wreck, I totaled my car because I was
Mhm.
driving, and then the wait in the emergency room was so long. After 3 hours, I apparently had three more seizures,
Mhm.
which got me to the front of the line real quick and into the MRI
Yeah.
machine. But God, the I don't know, the mental stuff, it's just so weird. The dreams and the
Mhm.
night terrors and
Mhm.
the brain fog, the fatigue. It's so debilitating. I don't know how people deal with it
Yeah.
on a daily basis. I
Yeah.
just don't know. I
Mhm.
have so much admiration
Mhm.
for people that get through life with neurological issues.
Yeah.
I've
I have
always
all
been
of
a
those.
healthy person, so
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like I said, I'm so blessed to be as healthy as I am. I
Mm-hmm.
I still need to take better care of myself, but I'm doing better,
I
you
mean,
know.
don't we all?
Yeah, right. That's true. And that's the other thing is the biggest lesson I've learned, they never figured out what caused it, but I think I figured it out. And it was high stress for so many years, living in a
Mm-hmm.
constant state of mental stress. And
Mm-hmm.
um, so let it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my mantra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love quotes. So one of my favorites that I look at every day is be the change you want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love
And
that
and the other one is shift happens.
one. Yeah, those are two really good ones. Um, yeah, I've never had seizures, but most of the symptoms you mentioned, I have. No one will
Oh,
know that I do. So I'm diagnosed with schizophrenia, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and blah, blah,
oh
blah, this
man.
stuff. All
Yeah.
right. So I've lived in the hospital. It's been my home for a while. Um,
Wow.
so even talking to you now, I have outer body experiences, which is freakishly freaky and
Yeah.
memory lost. Even my kids will know I don't remember things like I do. I keep asking certain things that they either
Mm.
told me last week, right? So I struggle with that. Um, and the good thing to help each other and others who are going through that is to help them realize that they're not alone because it can be a very, very scary, lonely place to be in.
Yes, yes, because when people see you in the outside world, it helps you because I find that when I'm have to be on stage, teaching a class, no matter how I felt before I got there, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I might be exhausted the minute it's over, but I can remove myself from myself
Mm-hmm.
during that time. But
Mm-hmm.
I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, I just can't even, I can only imagine
Mm-hmm.
what you go through because that out of body stuff is so weird.
Yeah.
And the, when I'm waking up, I have to like drag myself through something really weird. It's like an acid trip or something. It's like hallucinations
Oh, yeah.
and it just so uncomfortable. God, I don't know how people.
I'm just hearing sirens. There's been so much sirens up where I live.
Oh no.
Yeah, my friend was telling me there was six police cars close to her kid school. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. The
Oh, that's
world is
terrifying.
going to shit pretty much.
It is, and that's it too. It's hard to just take care of yourself when there's just so much
People are
outer.
frustrated. They need help. They don't necessarily get it, right?
No, and we feel helpless, and that hurts.
Yeah, yeah,
I wanna help people, but we can't do a lot for others
yeah.
until we're able to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, it's frustrating. For me, it's helpless. I have severe chronic back pain. I've shared that on a previous episode. I have a back brace I wear. I was wearing it just recently. I've done all tests and they said, I'm sorry, we can't help you. I'm like, what do you mean? I got to
Yeah.
live with it. So, yeah, I'm dealing with my own frustration with that. It's just people feel helpless and hopeless. And
Yes, everywhere.
yeah, yeah, I'm
And
realizing
people,
that now. It's not just where I am.
no, it's not just where you are, it's everywhere. When I talk to my friends, I have so many people and
Hmm.
they're having the mask on in public and they look fine, but they're not fine. We're not fine.
Yeah,
Thing world is screwed up and I don't know what we're going to do about it. And you look through history and it's been pretty screwed up before and
Yeah.
sometimes a hell of a lot worse ways. So I
Mm.
just try to say, well,
Oh
at least
yeah.
I'm living in the Middle Ages, I guess. Could be worse. Could be the Ice Age. I don't know.
Some things going on. Just yesterday and this morning there was earthquake in my country.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah. We're used to it by now. It's normal. Yeah, just checking to see if extended family were fine, and it's just always something. So that's why I enjoy podcasting and having conversations with beautiful people like you to just talk. Like sometimes we just need to talk, whether it makes sense or oh it sync or goes together, you know.
Yes, absolutely. I was just thinking that just this morning, how
Yeah.
my friends and I, or yesterday, this little grant I got for students here.
Hmm.
We had a class yesterday, and so far the only ones that are coming are the sixth through eighth grade, and they're girls. So yesterday there was
Hmm.
six, seven, six girls in seventh and eighth grade,
Yeah.
and just listening to them, it's so healing, and it's helped my friend Jamie and I see where we want to take our classes with
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
because when people are sitting together creating and not having to have eye contact, they open up.
Yeah.
And these girls were just talking about all the
Mm.
things, all the frustrations in their school and their lives, and it was really interesting kind of tuning in and out of their conversations and
Yeah, that's
uh,
awesome.
seeing, like last Friday we had a class and some incident had happened at school that I didn't get into any details with them
Hmm.
on, but my granddaughter was one of the seventh graders that came to the painting class, and she
Hmm.
was crying and another girl was upset, and
Mm.
they just did some art and they had this 3-hour workshop, and by the end they were laughing, and I told Jamie when they left, I said, this is what we're doing this for.
Yeah.
This was perfect because they had a 4-day weekend, or no, it was Thursday because they didn't have school Friday, and then Monday was a holiday. So
Hmm.
they had a 4-day weekend,
Hmm.
and they got to go home having released some of this,
Mm.
because a lot of their talk with each other was self-hate talk. Everybody hates us. Everybody hates the seventh graders. And Jamie and I calmly were like, but that's not true. And then we point out examples
Mhm.
and then leave them to talk it out amongst themselves. But they were able to, it was a really great therapy session for them.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. I love that about arts, how it can heal.
Yes.
Like without painting or arts, I write when I can. I don't know if I would be where I am right now, right?
Yeah,
Because it
because when
helps
you
to get
write,
an outlet. Yeah.
I've started writing again too. I have all these notebooks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm realizing, words are coming to me, stories are coming to me,
Mm-hmm.
and because of my memory issues, I've learned to write things down, since the seizures, because
Mm-hmm.
in the first 6 months, I couldn't remember 3 things in a row. I was getting so much exercise, just bouncing around a room trying to remember what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I was writing everything on my hand, you know. And so that's a good exercise, just to
Yeah.
write things down or phrases or thoughts as you have them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you never go back and look at it again, I think that's really healing.
Yeah, yeah, I believe you. Um, I, it happens to me a few times. I was looking for my cell phone. Guess where it was?
On your ear.
No, I was holding it.
I know, that's what happened to me. I was talking to somebody one day on my phone and I'm looking everywhere. I go, I can't find my phone anywhere.
Yeah,
But that's the whole world. See, we can't get down on ourselves for this because,
yeah. I was holding it the whole time.
right? Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of writing and book, tell me more about your book. Do you have a book that you co-authored or released?
I wrote it.
Mm,
I have a co-author. I met this wonderful woman out of Chicago who edited it for me and really guided me in it. But it's my story of being in that film
mhm,
and all the things, what El Paso was like in the 60s and about all the actors that were in the film that have become famous
mhm,
because of its notoriety and to the present day or to the present day of when the big book was written. I think
mhm,
it was released in 2016
mhm,
and and there's some dark parts in there. My dad was very depressed as
mhm,
I was growing up, and that's where a lot of my trauma comes from, is that he was suicidal. And then my parents, as they were going through the dark time of their divorce and all, my mother and her frustration and me being her oldest child,
mm,
she used me as her bouncing board.
mm,
So she thinks I have memories, clear memories of her saying something like, well, he's tried it again. He stuck his head in the oven this time.
mm,
And as a child, I was 12 years old when I became really aware of it. But I knew of suicide as a concept. I knew of it because one of the actors in that movie, one of the main characters, committed suicide. He was only 27 years old, and he put a shotgun in his mouth
Oh my
a
God.
month a month before the premiere of the
Mhm,
movie. So, and he was friends with my dad. So I remember that the
mm,
Monday, my mom and I going to school and hearing the news on the radio, and then still having to go to school.
mhm,
But then a couple years later, becoming aware of my dad being suicidal, but really knowing what that meant,
mhm,
the ending. And I grew up from 12 to 19 years old being suicidal. I had like three backup plans.
mm,
So I was determined if my dad succeeded, I was going to be right behind him. I was not sticking around.
mhm,
And when my parents divorced and he moved to Southern California, I moved with him. I left Texas and my mother and my little sister to go be with my dad with the sole purpose of keeping him alive. That
mm,
was my job.
mhm,
And and he did try it one more time. I was a junior in high school and
mhm,
he swallowed a bottle of Valium and started throwing up blood and changed his mind, and he woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't even have a driver's license. So
mm,
the ambulance came and got him and drove away and left me. And I just have all these memories of him. He checked himself into the mental part of the hospital
mhm,
after they released him, from the emergency room.
mhm,
And I, my friends helped me. They got me to school, and I went to school every day. And I didn't tell any adults what was going on because I
mm,
was afraid my mother was going to force me to go back to Texas. And wasn't going to leave him. So
Yeah.
I, I, yeah, I just carried on
Yeah.
and I got right. And the hospital was within walking distance. So I'd go visit him every day.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that was the end of it. It was interesting because we lived in a fourplex, four
Okay.
apartments, and he had a crush on the lady that lived next door.
Yeah.
And a month after he got out of the hospital, the mental part,
Mhm.
we were woken up in the middle of the night by a gun blast. And the
Wow.
neighbor had tried to commit suicide. And she was shaking so bad, she pulled the trigger, but it missed her head and it went through the bathroom wall and it lodged in our bathroom wall.
Oh, wow.
And that's how my dad and his wife of 40 years met.
Mhm. Oh, wow. Um, thank you for sharing that. I find that there is still so much stigma around suicide. Not that it's healthy, but there are healthy ways of talking about it and healthy ways of welcoming those who are, having those feelings and emotions or planning stuff. There are ways to still treat them with respect that they deserve as a human being.
Yeah, because when you're in that place, I mean, I understand that
Mm-hmm.
you can't, when you're in that kind of pain,
Mm-hmm.
you don't think about what it's going to cause other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know, the trauma it puts on children and families is
Mm-hmm.
becomes generational.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, and there are ways, but and at the same time, depending on what, there's certain states that help people, assist people if they're fatally ill, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, there's, I don't know, it's just such a deep, complicated subject.
Oh, it is. We could be talking for hours about
Mm.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, s-
But I have to say I'm very grateful my dad made it to 80 years old and but his wife, my stepmother, ended up in the last 19 years of their marriage, she just removed me from the family. So this movie that we had been in together became the one. For some reason she let us get together if it had something to do with that,
mm-hmm.
like interviews, or I mean there's been all kinds of projects and things that my dad and I were able to do together in his last years because of that crazy film Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Yeah.
And so I have great gratitude for that, for sure, because I wouldn't have had that time with him. That his last 5 years of his life, we got to have some time together.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time.
It's
um,
a long time.
well, there's different I don't remember the proper word for it, but more it's not mortality, different age from based on whatever country. In my country, people can live up to 50.
15.
50, yeah, because of
Wow.
poverty,
Oh, yes.
care, like everything is just, yeah, it's out of control. Um, yeah, with my niece, you have to pay to go when you're in the hospital to have a child, right? That's why I'm
Yeah,
grateful where I am. I get great health care, but it's not losing sight of the little things.
right.
Yeah, yeah. I love that your father, he lived that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, for the way he abused himself over the years,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, genetics, I suppose. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, and you know, I just at this point I'm almost 64 and I just decide I better start just having a lot more fun and enjoying things and stop worrying about things. I mean, the seizures are teaching me that because on my mother's side, my great grandmother lived to be 103.
Wow.
Uh, and my grandparents both lived into their 80s. So, you
Wow.
know, I may be destined to be here for a while. So I want to do the best I can
Mhm.
while I'm here, you know, for others and for myself.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that the body ages, but the heart and the soul never ages.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just a vessel, the body is. The soul lives on.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hmm. Yeah. So what's next for you, Jackie? Where do you see yourself in the next 2, 3, 10 years, 20 years?
Oh, yeah. I'm talking with my friend Jamie, who you know, we're the ones that did the kids classes, you know, the grant. We're looking at other grants
Hmm.
for, and we found a number of them for impoverished communities like ours in
Yeah.
this area.
Hmm.
But she's in the healing arts. She's a massage therapist primarily, does Reiki and body work.
Yeah.
And her great dream is to teach people. She's got a degree in psychology and in
Hmm.
child development, and she works with the school, and she's on the school board. She works with youth, but she wants to do some parenting classes.
Hmm.
And then, so we are developing this series of classes that we want to write grants for because all the kids that have come to our classes, their parents are telling her, well, we want to paint. So there you go. We were talking about collaborating because I had created a series of classes years ago. I put
Hmm.
it all together and never did it. I've got the folders and everything called Healing Through Paint.
Oh,
And
see, I love
so
that.
I'll teach the painting classes and then she'll do the psychology part of it. So it's about talking with parents
Hmm.
and teaching them about ways to work with their kids
Hmm.
and then teach a kids class
Yeah.
and then a third class would be the parents and kids together.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I love that. Um, yeah, I love that parents want to also paint. It,
Yeah, I mean, I do a couples class once a month, and it's so much fun when two people get together. Like we'll do my partner that I paint with, we'll do two paintings that match up in the middle,
mm,
you know, like a mutual tree or something. Or
mhm.
and maybe one side is daytime and one side is evening. So they might have some different colors, but even though they're different people, and some have been married a long time, some have are just been dating a short time. But to watch them create and match up their paintings through and to recognize they have different styles, but it still comes together in such a beautiful way.
Mhm. Yeah.
So things like that, I think that's the next thing.
Mhm.
That and then continuing to build my online classes.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and my own art. I'm working with somebody now who's helping me. He's built a press kit for me. I'd like to start attending
Mhm.
the Comic Con and HorrorCon conventions next year as a guest. I've
Mhm.
done a number of those, and they're a lot of fun,
Mhm.
and I've got other films that we can put in the film festivals, and
Mhm.
I was thinking about at the conventions, I could even teach classes.
Mhm. I love it. I
Oh,
love
and
it.
how
Yeah.
about this? I even looked this up.
Mhm.
Cruise ships. I could go on a
Yeah,
cruise ship
yeah,
and teach. I have a friend who told me they had a friend who's a stand-up comedian, and he only worked like 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time he was just cruising.
yeah, yeah. That would be really good. You'd make lots of money doing that.
And yeah, and have a room and get to travel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Sounds
the
good to
future
me.
looks bright. I
I'm
fingers
working on
crossed.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have something to look forward to. I even thought about that the other day. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
if suddenly I had all my financial needs met? If I wasn't starting over again, because I haven't done well financially with my money. I've had some good businesses, but it's ups and downs. And,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't set myself up very well. But I realized the other day that even if I even won the lottery or suddenly had all my financial needs met, there's a lot of more things I'd be doing, but the truth is no matter what, I would never be bored. I always I'm always on the move. I always have goals and things I want to do. I have a big bucket list.
Oh, I love that. It's never too late. We're never too old. Just keep living, thriving, and be the best we can be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what comes your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The most inspirational stories are about people who have gone through so much and then come out
Mm-hmm.
stronger in different ways.
Yeah.
Maybe their body failed, but something else they were able to do helped a
Mm.
lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything else we haven't covered that you would like to share before we close, Jackie?
I don't think so. We covered a lot. but but I really look forward to getting to know you after this through Facebook and sharing our art together. I think that'll be wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Before I let you go, I have two separate things to do. The first one is where can my listeners find your work and where can they support you?
I have let's see on Facebook,
Hmm.
Jackie's art,
Okay.
and I'll send you the links too as soon
Yeah,
as I get
yeah,
off
please
just to
do.
make sure they're. And then I have my website, which is still in construction, but you can see a lot there on
Mhm.
Jackie's Manos, and that's Jackie with an EY,
Okay, okay.
and
Yeah,
Manos,
yeah.
Manos.
Okay. I love that you said it's under construction because mine has been under construction for the past year.
Yes, mine too.
Yeah,
And technological things are not
me
my
too.
joy at
Yeah.
all. And trying to find help without having the finances just to hire somebody.
Yeah.
So you're forced to learn a lot yourself, which is not a bad thing, but it takes
Mhm.
time.
Oh yeah, it takes a toll on me. I'm not a techie person and it hurts my brain in ways I can't describe.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean. I know what you mean. There are days there's no way I could even look at it. And then when I have those windows of time where I have that clarity, I'm like, better do it now.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Now,
then the next
never.
time I go, I learn something and then I go again and I'm like, how did I do that?
Mhm.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a learning curve.
Yes, but that those are good starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And to wrap up our amazing episode, I have five signature questions that I ask every guest at the end
Okay.
of each episodes. The first one is, what does potential mean to you?
Potential uh is to have find the confidence to reach out for something that you're interested in, that you'd
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
and just to go for it.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. What is your favorite song?
Oh, right now, oh, my favorite song is I think it's called the Abbott Brothers, Avett Brothers. You can
Hmm.
find it on YouTube, and it's called No Hard Feelings.
Oh, nice.
I never get tired of that song since I first heard it. I decided I'm putting it in my will. I want it played at my memorial.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a good song. I'll check it out.
Yeah, you'll like it. You'll like it.
Yeah. Who is your favorite author?
Oh, my favorite author. Wow, that's a hard one. I mean, I would say Stephen King.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not really even though the majority of people through my fandom are into horror film and still some of the things that I've done have been horror film, I don't seek out horror film, but Stephen King is such an amazing storyteller
Mm.
that I love reading his books.
Hmm.
And I was such a avid reader as a kid. I wrote a lot of I love science fiction the most.
Hmm. That's awesome.
but but I would say, yeah, as a storyteller, he would be my favorite.
Nice. Do you like cats or dogs?
I have one of each, and I love them both. My puppy just turned 10 months old yesterday,
Oh.
and my kitty is just turned 2, so she's
Mhm.
big sister kitty, and my dog is only 8 pounds. She's a little Chihuahua Dachshund mix.
Oh.
So the cat's actually a little bigger than her and probably will always be, but it's
Mhm.
so cute. They're just best friends.
Oh, that's cute.
The kids taught my puppy how to be more like a cat, how to run
Mhm.
like a cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're my greatest joy. They
Mhm.
have their own places on my bed. They sleep with me and they're my greatest comfort and joy.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Besides my grandkids, of course. But the dog and cat are easier to get along with like all the time,
Mhm. That's awesome. I love how much healing pets bring into our hearts and life.
don't they?
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
I love it. My last question for you, what is your favorite movie?
Oh boy, my favorite movie. Wow, golly. I really don't. Oh, yeah, one of my favorite movies would be Secondhand Lions.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's just wonderful storytelling. I
Mhm.
guess I love the art of story.
Mhm. That's awesome. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure to talk to you like friends. I don't think
Yes.
we were strangers.
No, we are friends. We were instantly friends.
Yes. So thank you so much.